Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and Najee Moye.
Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast. I'm Niko Tamurian alongside Najee Moye. Najee, I don't think anybody anticipated that on this week's show or any show in 2025 that we would be talking at length about Philip Rivers.
Yes, San Diego Chargers legend Philip Rivers just got signed to the practice squad for the Indianapolis Colts, who will be in Seattle on Sunday to play the Seattle Seahawks.
And so let's break down that Colts quarterback situation. Obviously, Daniel Jones had been the starter.
Yeah.
Achilles injury out for the year. Anthony Richardson had that fluke warm-up injury earlier this season. Done. Riley Leonard, the rookie from Notre Dame, also played some ball, I believe, at Duke before that. He has a knee strain, and they're going to take it week by week. And so suddenly it's the Colts options came down to, Brett Rypien from the practice squad or 5 years later, bringing Philip Rivers out of retirement.
What's wrong with Brett Rypien, first of all?
Well, I think that here's the thing. There's nothing necessarily wrong with him. It's just the fact that he's, basically a career practice squad, borderline roster guy.
Sure.
And the Colts are in position to actually make the playoffs. The Texans passed them this past week.
Right.
But if they get at least semi-coherent quarterback play, they could find themselves in the playoffs. And so here comes Philip Rivers, 44 years old, instantly the oldest active player on a roster. And while he's only signed to the practice squad as of this recording on late Tuesday, it wouldn't shock me if he plays. It's been a few years, but there's two things to remember here, Najee. Number one, he is boys with Shane Steichen, the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. He was his offensive coach in San Diego. That's how long ago he played for the Chargers.
Yeah.
And, on top of that, he was, you think about the familiarity with the offense.
Think about where you were 5 years ago.
We were in COVID. It was horrible.
Exactly. We were in COVID. It was horrible. Philip Rivers he was old 5 years ago.
He played that was his last season with the Colts, 38, 39 years old. And I think what the idea here is that if there's anybody in the world who you could pull off the street that actually knows at least a good chunk of what you're trying to do, understands the concept, it's Philip Rivers, because he played in the scheme, so he understands what it's trying to accomplish. But also the reports are out there that he and Steichen talk once a week while Philip is coaching high school ball in Alabama and coming off the street to be the very least on the Colts practice squad backup, but very much so could be the guy on Sunday. And that is boy, it's not exactly training wheels coming back against the Seahawks defense if it happens that way.
I really wish that they flexed this game. I think they can still, there's still time for them to flex this game. I know staying up a little bit late, even for a 34-year-old like me, is a little bit difficult. But I mean, Philip Rivers, he can probably still stay up a little bit late.
I think he'll have a little bit to him still.
The thing is, he's fresh, I guess. I did see that according to JJ Watt, that the Philip Rivers actually runs the Colts offense in his high school football team. Yeah,
that's exactly it. That's what this is familiarity.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, Najee, Riley Leonard being very questionable with that knee injury. And the Colts, reports out of Indianapolis early this week saying that they've actually changed how they're going to practice this week, which can be perceived, again, could be and perceived as a ramp up for Rivers in case he's needed. At the very least, you can look at it and say it's not business as usual,
right? Which
you would say, like, for example, if Darnold didn't play and it was Drew Lock, or if, both Darnold and Lock were out and it was Jalen Milroe,
right?
It would probably be business as usual. Now,
sure,
if the Seahawks, went and signed Tom Brady off the street, they would probably change the routine a little bit just to get him back in football readiness. It wouldn't take him long, of course, and that's the thinking here with Rivers. So it's going to be interesting as the week goes on.
Let's remember, Philip Rivers is not a bad quarterback. He was not a bad quarterback.
Future Hall of Famer.
Future Hall of Fame consideration.
I think he'll get in.
I think he's a talented quarterback. He's someone who's been to a lot of AFC championship games, a lot of playoff time, a lot of time served. But he's been hanging out with his 14 kids, for the past like 5 years, and he's been coaching football. He's a football guy. I mean, I can't look if there's any guy, and I wonder if the Colts actually called around to see what they could do.
Yeah.
I'm
sure they did.
Yeah. Look, so naturally I'm a New York Giants fan, and you see the Twitter of your team. Giants Twitter is also a very dark place right now. And, I saw memes about maybe Russell Wilson, maybe potentially trade.
Yeah, or trade a 7th rounder for Jameis or something. But the idea there is they have to get acclimated to a whole new offense.
And that's
you
the thing.
Probably can't do it by Sunday.
That's the thing.
And yeah, it's an interesting thing.
This is the third time in 3 weeks that the Seahawks have faced a backup quarterback. We saw Max Rosemer be assaulted here about 2 weeks ago. Shout out to Max Rosemer, he did the best he could.
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins kept the Falcons in the game early last week. Seahawks defense it's just a lot, and I almost feel bad for Phillip Rivers, honestly, because I'm happy he's just getting out there, you just go rock around with your friends, The way this defense is playing, I worry about his collarbone. I worry about his shoulder. I worry about just being game speed is a big deal. Just getting up to game speed, being hit by these guys. I'm thinking about DeMarcus Lawrence. He's playing as well as anyone on defense that's playing in the NFL. Phillip Rivers, if I was him, I would want to come back against a team like the Cowboys, who doesn't really have a defense, or like the Giants or the Commanders.
Cowboys catch a stray.
They always catch a stray. But the Seahawks are arguably the best defense in the league. I don't know anyone who's going to deny that. Maybe the Rams is a 1A. But hey, Niko, what are you expecting from the Seahawks though? From the Seahawks side of things, like I said, some of these guys were in college last time Phillip Rivers was playing. It's been a while. We're basically seeing an apparition on the field, if that is the case, what's Coach McDonald saying about this new twist in this game?
What I would say is this: they're not going to change anything.
Sure,
they're just going to do that, and that is what they preach. I know it sounds like coach speak; it sounds cliche, but all they preach is just being ourselves, being what they do, and it's worked, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like it's coach speak when it's actually what you're doing and it actually works. When Coach McDonald talked Monday, he was talking more about the possibility of facing Riley Leonard. And he said it can actually be more difficult to face a rookie like that because there's not a ton of NFL film. There's not a quite of, okay, like how are they going to handle this? How are they going to handle that at this level? And a lot of times you end up watching college video instead of NFL, which is a totally different animal. Don't anybody tell you it's that. It's similar, but because it's the same sport, but it's a lot different.
It's a lot
different. So there's difficulties there. Now, listen, there's no shortage of video on Phillip Rivers, of course.
Some of it may be SD.
Some of it may be an SD, but that's just it. The last film they have of him, which is, by the way, in a Colts jersey in 2020, it's 5 years ago. Like, it's a totally different scheme.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, I would imagine it's similar to like what Mike McDonald said about Riley Leonard, that it can be more difficult, even if on paper, and certainly we saw it play out to fruition against the Vikings in specific, but it can be, in theory, more difficult to prepare for these guys, even if on paper you're like, listen, it's an untested or a recently retired or whatever the case may be. You would send the house in theory, and you'd be, but sometimes it's like, well, okay, it's Phillip Rivers if it is him, and he's savvy as they come, even if he probably doesn't move or do things the way he did in 2020.
I do think that the first defensive play against Phillip Rivers needs to be a send it all zero blitz.
Yeah, but I think he will still have the mental capacity. It sounds bad to say it that way,
but he's ready.
He'll still be ready. Like he'll find his hot read or whatever it might be. So it's like,
I beg of you, the NFL, please flex this. Your ratings will go out of the just off the charts. Let's talk about really quick the Seahawks against the Falcons last week. I watched the first half of the game. It was a little bit of a hard watch, at least in the first quarter or so. But man, the Seahawks, they play a full entire game. We saw a big kick return touchdown by Rashid Shaheed last week, talking about how fast he is. Sam Darnold throwing 3 touchdowns. Running game, not exactly what you want to see from but the Falcons defense played very well for a while. Until they didn't.
It was similar to exactly. It was until they didn't. Similar idea to Minnesota, where they do some things that like Minnesota did similarly. They could give the Seahawks trouble, but it's the same takeaway I have from that game. It's the idea that this Seahawks team can find ways to pick each other up. They can always say, "We have each other's backs. We have each other's backs," and I think it sounds cliche because we've heard that term from millions of teams across the world. But the reality is, it's really true about this team. You saw Ernest Jones with that profanity-related thing defending Darnold after the Rams loss. It's more of a mentality than that, though. It's the idea that here's the thing. You're 10-3, you're obviously doing a great thing. But not every game is the offense going to be on, or is the defense going to be on, or special teams going to be on. It's the idea that you can pick each other up when needed the most. Okay, so the offense was struggling in the first half. Boom, Rashid Shaheed gets that kickoff return. The defense forces 3 turnovers, now 8 in the last 2 games. And it just kind of set the stage for the offense to keep things rolling. And what's ironic is the one game where the defense got carved up a bit. Granted, literally the entire secondary was hurt, so that was never indicative. It was the Buccaneers game.
Right.
And the Hawks offense did respond that game. And yes, they had the late turnover that kind of cost them a chance, but they scored 35 points and they were right there. So it is interesting to see how this plays out, where they do pick one another up in that way. And, it's funny with that Rashid Shaheed kickoff return. Mike McDonald called the shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. In the locker room at halftime, Nicky Moye said, he's like, yeah, coach said Sheed's going to take this back to the house. And then he did.
They did.
And Mike was asked why. He's like, maybe I called it. He's like, no, and apparently he's called a few things before, like Kobe Bryant's pick last year, the pick 6 against the Cardinals, the earthquake. So kind of cool that we have Coach Stradamus there on the side.
Coach Stradamus. I
wanted to put that in the on-screen graphic. Admittedly, I just forgot.
I understand. You can definitely see him. If you see him on the sidelines and you've seen him up close, Niko, you can tell that you can see things happening.
You see the gears moving
in his brain. You can see it. One thing that the Colts do have is a all-star running back, a MVP level running back, Jonathan Taylor. The Seahawks played an all-star level all-star. All-star?
Pro Bowl?
Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
Got him. I'm watching basketball. That's why. I'm a Pro Bowl level running back last week in Bijan Robinson. Bijan Mustard, as some call him. 20 carries, 86 yards. You can only hope to contain people like that. The defense did a very good job of that. They have another test this week, and I think that you are probably going to see Jonathan Taylor, at least at first, get a lot of carries given the quarterback situation, Niko. Right?
Yeah, and the Seahawks are aware of that, and they're going to, they've been pretty good against the run. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher all year, and Bijan got close, but he did not get there. And, listen, if you're the Seahawks, regardless of it's Phillip Rivers, Riley Leonard, or your old boss Phil,
sure, shout
out to Phil. You're going to try and make that guy beat you.
Yeah.
And so, in other words, you're going to really try to sell out to beat the run. It doesn't mean you're going to, leave anybody in a proverbial island out there, but you're going to say, okay, Riley or Phil Rivers / Bruce, you have to try. I don't know why we love Phil.
Phil can throw probably.
He probably can.
Yeah, he probably can.
But I think that it's, you're going to make that guy beat you. Yeah. And I think that you got to really contain Taylor, and that's going to be the game plan. I mean, Mike's got a million things, like you see the gears working, right? So he's probably thought about this 55 times over. But again, it's just going to be interesting to see. Okay, so that happens. Okay, then the Colts are forced to throw the football. That's when this thing gets interesting.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, for the first maybe 10 minutes of this podcast, I've roasted Phillip Rivers. And ever since we discovered that he was being signed, I've been roasting him. There's pictures, there's memes of Joe Biden popping up when talking about Phillip Rivers. And yes, I've shared a lot of those, but let me tell you, this guy was a dog when he was in his prime, even past his prime, he was a top 3 or so overall pick, he led a good Chargers team, a great Chargers team to a lot of playoff games, and gave the Colts some wherewithal late in his career. Is he going to come at the Seahawks with everything he's got? How funny would it be if he actually just threw for 3 touchdowns, 300 yards? It could happen.
It could very well happen.
It could happen. No,
and so it's easy to, it's fun. It's, oh my God, he hasn't played since 2020. Oh my God, he's 44.
We're unfreezing Phillip Rivers right now as we speak.
That's pretty good. But it's well within the realm of possibility that he makes some things happen.
Anything can happen on it.
I think he can still have a decent game. I think he can throw for, maybe close to 200 yards, and the Seahawks can still run away with this thing, and that's what I think will happen in this thing.
And the thing is, the Colts are a playoff team, and the reason why they are signing Phillip Rivers is because they are trying to make the playoffs. They're trying to keep pace with the Jaguars and Texans in the AFC South. The AFC South is probably the most competitive division, I think, in the AFC as of right now, just given the teams that are winning. We saw the way the Texans basically sent the Chiefs back home on Sunday night. And, the Jacksonville Jaguars looked great against the Colts last week. The Colts are a good team. I know that Daniel Jones is, I have said a lot of bad things about Daniel Jones, but he's been playing great, and I hate that, his Achilles happened the way it did.
Yeah, of course.
But the reason why the Colts are going to Phillip Rivers is because of familiarity in the system, and also they think that they can. I got a push alert today from a citing a Colts receiver saying that we have realistic expectations for him. He can take us to the Super Bowl.
Sure.
Now, delusion where delusion is also a sign of hope also. So and I get it. Where there's delusion, there's hope. And I'm happy that they have this, because why wouldn't
Yeah, I listen. I applaud the creativity. They truly believe this is the best chance. We'll see how it goes. Now for the Seahawks, though, and I don't think they will. You can't let that noise become part of it.
No.
You just got to do your thing.
Yeah,
you have to attack him the same way you attack Jacoby Brissett and Brosmer and Kirk Cousins, and the list goes on and on and on. And I think they will. And I think that, if you want to get to predictions, I'll do it. I'll say, I think that the Colts will do a couple nice things out there, but I still think we're talking about a 34-14 Seahawks win.
I think we're going to see a lot of trick plays.
Hey, what's that line from Waterboy? Last game of the season, don't know anything back. Although it's not the last game of the season, but if the Colts lose again, then
this might be it for them.
Might be dire straits if you lose this one.
And this is a good team.
Maybe it already is when you're, signing 44-year-old Rivers, as much as he's, lauded in his accomplishments, right?
And I'm waiting for someone, fantasy football playoffs start this week in many leagues, and neither me or Niko are in the KOMO League playoffs. I was the first one out, actually. But someone will sign Phillip Rivers to their team.
Sure. And especially if you're in a super flex league.
If you're in a super flex league, I don't see why you wouldn't, the Colts have a solid team on offense, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Ward, who's a tight end I'm high on, Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, this is a solid team. It's just, I hate what happened, to Daniel Jones. It's just a storybook year, given the way, he got ousted from New York, and just kind of, he was cooking.
Oh yeah.
He was cooking really well, and I think if Phillip Rivers can even give the Colts half of what Daniel Jones gave them, I think they'll at least be competitive in this game, at least for the first half.
Yeah, like there's playmakers all over. They've got some good players. Obviously, it wasn't just Jones, to your point. So that's 34-14 is what I'm going with, just because I expect the defense to continue forcing turnovers. But listen, it wouldn't shock me if it's like one of those games where 12s come into this saying, okay, it's Phillip or it's Riley Leonard or whoever, and it's like and then it's kind of still a game in the third quarter or something.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm going to say this game may be closer, maybe one of the closer games the Seahawks have had in the past couple of weeks. I want to go 27-14.
Okay.
I'm thinking that, because in a game like this, you need big plays. If you're the Colts, I'm thinking, we've seen Sam Darnold throw interceptions, not to the level that Geno Smith throws interceptions, but it's happened, and there may be a situation where they get down in the 5-yard line and Jonathan Taylor runs it in, or something like that happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's talent there.
There is talent there, and this is a team you should not sleep on. I'm happy it's here in Seattle.
Sure.
Wake up, Phillip Rivers! You're going to Seattle next week.
That's gonna be crazy.
That's gonna be crazy.
I like where our predictions are at. Remember, this is a 10-3 football team, matching last year's win total with 4 games to go, surpassing the win total of 2021. 2022 or even 2023 with, again, 4 games to go. So that's a testament to this team buying into Mike McDonald's vision and culture. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Every time you ask like the players about that, they'll all point to somebody else who's like a leader. I've heard players talk about Julian Love. I've heard them talk about Kobe Bryant. I've heard them talk about Big Cat Leonard Williams. I've heard them talk about Ernest Jones, of course, even Devin Witherspoon as a rookie. They were talking about it that way. So it's really cool to see everybody stepping up, and it's a testament to that culture that this team has taken the next chronological step, so long as they don't lose the next 4, which I don't think happens.
I don't think it happens, but we're in the last quarter of the season, and
it's a big week.
It's a big week. I mean, given, like I said, we said last week that this is a stretch of games against winning teams. That the Seahawks need to. I mean, the playoffs start today. I don't care who you're playing against. Phillip Rivers, and anyone else, it doesn't matter. Flowing rivers, flooded rivers, Snohomish River, it doesn't matter. Win the game.
Well, I'll say this too: 2 games in 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be favored against the Colts, obviously, but then you got the Rams here, rivalry series uniforms. This is going to be a big, big stretch. You got to at least split. If you win 2, you're sitting really pretty. You're probably really clinching a bid at that point, depending on other teams. But that's the crazy part. 11 wins may not get the job done in the NFC playoff picture. It's just the way it is this year.
It's just the way it is,
Yeah, so you gotta finish strong. It would behoove to win 3 of 4 down the stretch. I mean, listen, win the whole thing, as the Mariners and Jake Taylor from Major League said.
Yeah.
But first things first, get to the playoffs, maybe win the division for the first time since 2020. Line them up and see what happens against the Colts team that may be struggling. I suspect they're going to fight hard, but I also take a look at the Seahawks defense. It's just downright dominant, and I think the offense will – I'm not saying all of a sudden Darnold's going to throw for 400 yards, but I think they're going to figure out – I think in the second half against the Falcons, they figured things out, and I think they're going to take that next step forward.
What number do you think Phillip Rivers is going to wear?
I don't know.
I want to see him pull up in a 00.
What about 44? Oh, no, I think they have a 44.
That's Tyler Warren. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
Because Daniel Jones was 17, and then Phillip Rivers was 17 when he was.
And Daniel Jones was like, give it to him. Here you go, Dad.
You go, Dad.
You know,
it's true.
Absolutely.
True. Yeah.
Well, Najee, we both predict a win. I think we like this one for the Seahawks, but I'll tell you what,
it's going to be entertaining if nothing else.
Entertaining. Yeah. Maybe both guys see action. Certainly, we'll update you this with a rapid reaction if any of that changes. But big one, Colts, Seahawks. Hawks can get to their 11th win of the season for the first time since 2020 with a win in this game. So for Najee Moye, I'm Niko Tamurian. That is the KOMO Sports End Zone. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.